there's been a lot of things that are like gets implemented in the ecosystem, like promises. There was like ecosystem implementations, and then like they just kind of like went right into let's just like copy paste this and not like let's learn from this and like tune this to something that is like more suitable.
Yep. Okay, so what are we going to do about the new ESM later? Are we going to put in like diagnostics channel, something in there so we can see? Because what was the name of the module where you could...
Yeah, that module that data was implemented.
Yeah, import in the middle is broken right now. Yeah.
What's going on with that?
So there's a thread about it. Brand English trying to figure out what's going to be the best way to make it work. It sounds kind of ugly, but the plan at the moment seems to be we're just going to add Acorn and like just parse the modules and like pull all the imports out that way.
What do you mean?
So the way the import in the middle works is like we load the module, find out like what all of the exports of it are, and then we create a copy of that module that basically just re-exports that. But then we register a whole bunch of like setter callback things that like our own instrumentation can just call these functions to mutate the like because it like in ESM if you change the reference. It'll change what is exported.
Oh, okay.
It's like even after like you've already done the export, like changing the like that like variable reference will change the export. So yeah, that's basically what we've been doing. But that worked before because you could like load a module from within the loader, but you can't do that anymore.
It's off thread.
Well, yeah, moving it off thread made it so the loader can't load modules.
Yeah, because that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So
what? I didn't. The patch was huge and kind of messed up, so I didn't dive into it too deep. But what about it is that like, are they just loading the file off thread? Because you can't load it into the heap off thread, right? So what off thread work is it actually doing?
Basically, that it's resolve the graph, load the files, hand them back to the main thread.
Oh, it's doing the whole graph resolution off thread.
Yeah.
Aha. Okay. I'm a pain. Is there any chance we could put in, I guess, minus the mutating state part, right? We don't need to be able to do that, but what we would like to be able to do is just see when and what modules are loaded, right? Yeah. So, and there's not a diagnostics channel in there yet, right? To be able to just see what's being loaded.
Yeah. So I had a pull request that I opened at one point that I'm just getting back to.
Okay. Yeah, I have that bookmarked.
So. Yeah. I had like originally built that in like a particular way, and then like we decided like we wanted another thing I built, tracing channel. Like we want to lay it on top of that, so like we can measure like how long an import takes and things like that. Or like we can measure how long a require takes. Import, because of all the threading nonsense now, we won't be able to see anything actually useful from that. But
that's actually kind of that's a total freaking pain because that's going to be impossible to measure. But it's still if you're running like in a Docker container with a single CPU, that's still going to have overhead that affects the main thread, but you just won't be able to measure that because it's like it'll have to pause the main thread in order to run all the processing off the main thread. But then it'll hand back, so the main thread will report like, well, I wasn't actually doing anything, but that's just because all CPU resources were being used somewhere else.
Yeah. So with the like moving to off-thread loader, we lose like all visibility into the startup load time stuff. Other than like we can see like black box like from starting the process until we actually can run some code. It took this long,
Yeah.
but we don't know what happened in that time.
Was there actually many gains doing it off thread? Because since
Well, the core reason for it is like the ESM team wants loaders to be used for CommonJS, which means it has to be synchronous. But because like by the spec it's async, they can't do it on the same thread. If they do it on another thread, though, like it can be async on that thread, and then they just wait for it on the main thread.
So interop is the reason for with CommonJS that they want to move
Yeah.
out. Okay. I can't tell whether that's better or worse.
Yeah. I have opinions. Yeah.
I can see that on your face. Well, yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Is it because diagnostic channel you can't emit the events off the thread?
Not as it works right now. Like I could make a way to do it, but yeah, it's not a thing that it can do inherently currently, and
Right, you wouldn't have thought of
and
it.
yeah, like none of the CSM stuff was run by like any of the APMs. It was just like, yeah, we're just gonna go and do our thing and
Now,
break the world for everyone.
As they are creating the tree or structure, whatever it's called, of all the files that need to be imported, are they asynchronously reading the files? Like basically, they could have like, say they read a file, like, okay, we need these 5 other files. They don't synchronously read those 5 files. They say, go out and fetch those 5, and then let me know when you're done bringing them back.
Yeah, it's async.
Yeah. So that's even bigger pain in the butt because that's being run on a different thread in libuv in order to do the file system operation. Well, now with the latest libuv, it's going to be in IOU ring.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't even use the same mechanism anyway. It doesn't even use the thread pool anymore
Yeah.
in libuv. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, so it's it'll load like your top level script and then like basically parse out all the imports, get like the like specifier for each of these imports, and then like concurrently try to load like all of these. Once like any one of those load, it's gonna like parse that one, and then like try and get all the specifiers out of that, and like it just keeps going down and down until it runs out of things it's added to this queue of stuff it's waiting for.
And then it just takes that massive glob of crap and hands it back to the main thread to.
Yeah.
Oi, okay.
So it's just
That's
like
pleasant.
this tree of async stuff making more async stuff, and then
Yeah.
here's my big blob of stuff at the end.
Oi.
So
Yeah, so yeah,
Very
we
observability.
can't detect. It's impossible to detect when the file was read. Like, down at the libuv level, it'll be impossible to even tell when one of those files is read from the file system because we don't know when. Using the new IOU ring, it just happens magically, and then it's just delivered to you.
Okay.
I mean, I guess we could hook the other thread to take note of when it acknowledged the file was received.
Yeah.
But that's the best we could do.
Yep. Well, like we can probably hook into like in the loader thread, like it knows like for each of these like specifiers that it's requested a thing for, it knows when it gets the response for that. So like that is a signal that like this individual file is just trying to load is done, but like loading and like all the parsing to trigger the next tree of things. But yeah, and I'm not sure if like if this file loads more files, if like the outer file would be like if it'll say this is done when it still has stuff below it, or if it'll be like it has to like go all the way down and then come back up before
Yeah,
the upper one resolves.
I have no idea.
But yeah.
I've had the ESM module resolution path explained to me a few times, and I keep forgetting whether it's top down or bottom up or whatever.
Yeah.
You included those times, so all the stuff's being done, then it passes it back. You included the times in the data that was passed back, and then called the existing diagnostic channel. Would that, like this, I'm trying to remember if it depends on like when you send the event, that's when it timestamps it versus say, here's the timestamp I want to give you for this event.
Well, Diagnostics channel itself doesn't like have any concept of timestamps. It leaves it up to the user to like the handler triggers synchronously from where the publish is. So like the way you're supposed to use it is like you just set the time whenever the like subscriber is triggered.
Right.
If you are like pulling a thing off thread like that, like we could add timestamps to it.
Right.
Like there's nothing stopping us from adding
Yeah.
timestamps in these
Yeah.
like weird cases.
Yeah, because it seems like that'd be the only way then is just to record metrics off thread and have that be part of the metadata sent back to the main thread of.
Right. You're already sending a whole bunch of metadata.
Yep.
Throwing some extra stuff.
Yeah, it's just any measurement of how long it took to read the file is pointless because you can say I sent the request to libuv to retrieve the file at this time, and then I received the file at this time, but that's not actually how long it took. That's just how long it took us to retrieve it, right? With require, since all synchronous, you can actually track and see this is how much overhead reading from the file system took. That is impossible.
But what is it you're trying to do with that information? Like, you know, if it's only a bit like you get when it's available, is that delta not what's interesting? You're like actually because you're more interested it took X. Like you're trying to measure the effort through time versus
So okay.
last time.
This is one thing that bothers me about using ESM on locally, is that it kind of makes sense in the browser because you can make requests to many servers all at the same time. On the file system, you're only going to be retrieving one file at a time anyway. It's like while your hard drive is delivering one file, it can't be simultaneously delivering another. It has to do one at a time, right? So it was easy to see like, oh, okay, if we're loading a lot of files and like thousands and thousands of files in a big project, that could, especially in a virtualized environment, that could have noticeable overhead on your startup time. But the problem with right now is doing the off-thread loading. What will happen is it will go off-thread, and that will be busy. So the main thread will just stall and have nothing to do for a second. Then off-thread, it will need to be doing all this work. And since there's only, like, say in a virtualized environment, there's only one CPU available, that thread is consuming all the CPU. But that's no longer measurable by the main thread. We can no longer say, like if you take a CPU output, you're going to see high CPU usage. But then if you take ELU, the event loop utilization, look at the main thread, it's going to read 0. It's like, well, what the frick is going on, right? So it'll be much harder to detect why there's all that extra overhead, because not only is it, I assume parsing isn't very expensive, is it? Don't know? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's too expensive. It's all handled in V8 and like it skips all the like regular syntax. It just looks specifically
Just for those imports.
for the imports. So I think it's fairly quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have seen in virtualized environments where a lot of file system operations can lead to noticeable overhead. So it's like, in your case, you might want to bundle and just read one big file, right? Instead of reading 1,000, 2,000 tiny files.
Right, I'm just thinking like, if you got the, hey, I asked for the file to, at this point, it was ready for me at this point. Isn't that still the thing you want? Like
But that's not how much time it actually took to read from the file system.
Sure, but does that matter? Like, it's how long it took for the file to become available
Well, so it will send out, I need 5 files,
Yeah.
right? And then it will return when all 5 files are available. But the problem is, it only registers 1 file at a time, right? So it's like, all right, I have now this 1 file ready.
Yeah.
I'm now going to process this file. Okay, I read the next file. This one was ready. So technically, all 5 were ready at the same time. All of them should have the same timestamp. But they don't, because you can only process each one in sequence. And so the timestamp for each file would be different.
Sure, so like it might be, you might not actually get the time to read each file, but I'm wondering, like, is that what you actually care about? Or do you care about, I asked for a whole set of files to be ready now, and well, wait a second, it took me 5 seconds before I got it back, so my overhead is reading the files, and that's why it was blocked, the event was blocked, the event loop was blocked because I was reading files. Like, do you really care that this file took a second and this one took?
Well, no, because like if something happens in between, then you're like, now since this is happening off thread, it shouldn't be an issue. Fortunately, it'd be even worse if it was, because like if it was on the main thread, you could say I need these files, and then I'm going to do something in between, and that's going to block the event loop, and then the file will be available later. And so you actually have no idea when the file was retrieved. Fortunately, that's not a problem here, because it's only, I'm assuming it's only handling retrieving the files, right? I'm just saying, from my history in doing research on how to properly identify the health of an event loop and the health of your application, having specifics matters, and read times for like lots of small files can be different than larger files, and just having those specific metrics can really help identify extreme cases, like the edge cases. And when you're reading metrics, the cases you care about are the edge cases. Like if your application is fine, you don't give a crap about the metrics, right? So just in my experience, having that type of specificity was advantageous in helping me deduce the problems that I was facing.
Yep. Yeah, there's kind of like 2 levels that matter. There's the like like the high level of user impact, like how much startup time did this cost me?
Yeah.
And then you want the deeper, okay, it cost me this amount of startup time, why? And then that's the like you need to dig in and see like, oh yeah, like it was spending all this time like waiting on the disk, maybe, or maybe he was like busy doing other stuff. Maybe the parsing was really expensive. Maybe who knows what. Like you want to know like what was it actually doing that took this amount of time, and like the order is doing it, like the structure of like resolving that graph and like the order and all those things like does actually matter. And like it can very much have like an influence on like what the performance is. Like being able to express that is valuable. It's like personally, like I think we should ideally be able to like actually capture like a full trace from the like startup. It's like we should be able to see like for each separate import, we should be able to see like started this time, ended this time, and just like the like ownership relation between all of them. But,
And
yeah.
as far as I've looked, sorry, this is just a complaint about ESM. But as far as I've looked, there's no performance advantage using ESM over CommonJS because of the limitation of your hard drive, right? Your hard drive can only read sequentially, so there's no advantage in that, right? And so ESM is trying to group everything together as if they're network requests, but then you're getting all that from something that can only give it to you one at a time anyway. So in the end, it always comes out to be about the same in terms of how long it takes to get your application up and running. I haven't done benchmarks on the latest with that patch, so I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, there could technically be like a performance advantage, like if you're using dynamic imports all the time, because like it's gonna put it off thread, so like your main thread can keep doing stuff.
Oh wait, and worker threads would do it off the main thread too, or
Yeah.
off its own thread. Sorry.
It's like you could have like an application performance advantage, but like not many people are going to be like dynamic importing most of their stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's mostly just going to be like a startup thing that like you've used the import statements. All of this is going to like resolve and load before any of my code even runs.
Mm.
So it's like not really a thing that you can control other than just like don't depend on so many things. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the short of it is, I guess we could keep track of some metrics, at least the names of the modules being loaded, which is really, for us, it's really important to know the names of the modules being loaded and like the path that they were read from. And then timing is kind of pointless, really. Okay, well, okay, so timing's out with ESM.
How's it different? Like, I mean, that's an ESM thing. That doesn't matter whether it's on or off thread. Right? You're gonna,
Yeah, exactly. That just occurred to me right now. With ESM, it'd just be like one block. We were done processing everything at this time.
right, like we
Yeah.
asked for it to start, we're done now. That's probably still an interesting number.
Yep. I don't even know how this would be possible, but if it were possible to register, excuse me, with CommonJS, it was possible to. There, can you hold that? Sorry about the coffee attack. ESM is very upset that I'm insulting it.
fighting back.
Sorry about that. With CommonJS, it was possible to keep track of how long each module took to load. You could create like a hierarchy and be like, okay, this module has started being processed. And then once another one is required, you just add it and remove it, right? So you could keep track relatively of how long each module took. I mean, hypothetically, that'd be possible with ESM, but then we'd have to add in tooling to keep track of how long it took to process each script. But that would be a freaking nightmare. That even be possible?
Yep. Yeah, I'm not really sure. I'd have to dig into more of like how the like off-thread loading thing actually works. But
Well,
like,
this wouldn't be the off-thread loading. This would be after the fact when it hands back.
well, just
What?
like just to
Yeah. Basically, when it executes the script itself and loads it into the isolate, how long does that take? But that would be after it hands it back, right?
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and so that's pretty trivial to do with CommonJS.
Yeah.
But it would require a ridiculous amount of tooling, I think, in ESM, because we'd have to keep track of all the different things and when it's being loaded in. What? Yeah, we can track when the file system is called. Hmm? Yeah, and whenever, but that'll just be general information. But then, all right, whatever. Yeah, let's just start with trying to get the file names, the module names, and the paths. But, so it sounds like you kind of have a solution using, what you say, Acorn?
Well, we haven't like tried to build it yet, but basically,
Oh, it's a hypothetical?
we opened an issue basically saying like, yeah, Node 20 like broke everything. APM's like import in the middle just doesn't work on Node 20 and can't the way it's designed currently. And so there's basically some ideas on like, here are the possible ways we can fix this. There's like, you can go and do this acorn thing, which is obnoxious, but pretty much the only thing that you can do in like at all reasonable amount of time.
Do you prefer way, or would you like something to change?
Well, basically all we actually need is like the names of the imports, or the names of the exports to, like, we basically need we replace the module itself with the like wrapper module that like we've just generated a bunch of code that is basically like, we know that there's an export of this name, so like register a function that it provides like a setter function basically that like our instrumentation can say like, I want to replace this function with this thing, and like when we do that it'll trigger this and like just do like set this export name to this thing we just passed into this function, and it'll do that at that outer context level, like replace that variable binding. So the only thing we actually need is just to like know the name of the export to do that. But we don't actually do that currently. There's no like API to look up what the exports of a module are or anything like that currently.
Okay.
Like if there was, like that's all we'd need. But yeah,
I assume that change landed just before 20 went out.
Yeah, I think it was pretty last second.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was like after last second. Like there was like the like, I think the deadline was like the Saturday or something, and then like on Sunday or Monday or something, they're like, oh, but we also want to get this in, because like every major release, there's always like a big pile of people that are like, oh, but actually, can you add this thing too, and this thing and this thing, and yeah, but very very much props to Raphael for dealing with that like mountain of stuff. But
Yeah, I was
yeah.
double checking like that. If we let things in at the last minute, we're gonna run into these kinds of issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's like we just need to make sure there's a solution before 20 goes LTS. Because
Yeah. As it is right now, we can't work on Node 20 at all.
Yeah, totally.
Like CJS, we work fine. Like if you use ESM, it just doesn't work.
Yep.
There was no fallback option, right? To say, don't run off there.
No, it's just like fully rip out everything and replace it with this thing, and like let's just push this thing through at the very last minute with like, maybe there was some review. I don't know if there was enough.
The PR itself I was constantly confused by it. Was it just me, or like there was so many commits like intermingled, and it just seemed very messy, and I was having a hard time keeping track of what was happening in that PR thread.
Yeah, I didn't really get a chance to like look at it closely enough. But, yeah, it's like I was aware it was an effort that they wanted to work on at some point. I never really knew what sort of timeline there was on any of it.
Yeah,
or,
I was
like, how
surprised
close
when I
it
saw
was to being landing.
Yeah, like,
The import in the middle in Sitchin?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. That might be. I don't know how early that was run or not, but like that might have, shown us. It might be another way to catch things being broken earlier.
Yeah, it'd
Doesn't matter.
probably be a good one to get in there, because like most APMs are starting to adopt that now. At least
Right.
the ones that are trying to do ESM, which there's not too many of yet.
Yeah. So
But like Datadog uses it. Some other APM that I'd never heard of, and I forget their name, uses it. And OpenTelemetry uses it.
it'd be a good time to propose it just as we didn't catch this in 20. This would help us catch similar
well, and
issues.
Yeah.
honestly, breaking open telemetry is a big issue.
Yeah.
Because that's like,
Well, to be fair, like OpenTelemetry's ESM support like isn't really even released yet.
They are about to.
Yeah.
oh, are they? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
they were like in the process of like preparing it, and like had just started integrating it, and then Node 20 comes out and like, actually nope, it's broken.
Freaking serious? Oh man. Yeah, I was surprised when I saw that PR land because in my opinion, every time I checked, I would routinely check on it because it seemed like a really big important one. And then one day I was just in, I was like, wait, what? I didn't remember seeing the rigorous process of landing something of that size. But that's all in the past now. I guess we're just stuck trying to deal with the result.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm mostly just surprised that like that wasn't put behind a flag or something to like have like an experimental flag for like let's try and see if this works for like a major or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like no, let's just like fully rip out the guts of all of this and replace it with new guts in this major. And it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Right before going to an even release too.
Yeah.
Because yeah, if they had done this before 19 or 21, it's like sweet. That's why these branches exist.
Yeah.
But they know 20 is going to be LTS.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, so short of it is there is no good plan on how to fix this issue.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, there's the Acorn thing, which we think will work, but basically, like every module we see, we'll have to have like Acorn parse it and find the exports in it. So we'll have to write a bunch of stuff to use Acorn however you use Acorn.
Yeah, freaking.
And
Is there any chance we can get something landed in core to assist with this? Like,
look, core already has Acorn in it, so we could just like have core do this and make an API for it.
I think that's acceptable, honestly.
Yeah, like that was kind of my suggestion. There are people that think that the existence of Acorn in core is not a thing that we should be relying on, or like.
But it does, and it does exist in core.
It does currently, but in theory, if like the one thing that depends on it currently changes, like it could be removed in the future, maybe.
Then what if we just create an abstracted API that, because some aspects of Acorn will need to exist, whether we use Acorn directly or not.
Yeah.
The idea of it needs to exist.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. It's like my suggestion was like just like what we need is an API to get like what are the exports of this module.
Yeah.
And so like my suggestion was like just make an API that's all it does.
Yeah.
But like even then like that would depend on Acorn. It like very very loosely ties us to having like parsing in Node Core somewhere.
Mm.
And like basically like because Acorn exists outside of Node Core, a bunch of people were like, well, why can't you just use it outside of Node Core then?
No, you don't get it. Like that's. So
yeah, we'll probably be adding like Acorn as a dependency of import in the middle, and then doing a bunch of parsing there to do that.
So wait, I just thought of this. V8 doesn't have an API to allow you to view the exports of a file. I feel like V8 should allow you to be like, show me it has to parse them already, right?
Yeah,
it's already doing the work.
I think it does at like C++ level.
Yeah.
I would have to look closer at it.
Okay. Because if V8 is, it has to be parsing out the exports or the imports. Right. And so I'm curious what the effort would be to just be like, whenever you parse one, send me a string. Just let me know what it is. Right? Because that string has to be generated somewhere at some time, and we know it.
Yeah.
So maybe that would shut them up and be like, look, one unique V8 API that lets us know the string of the import.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what we get from V8, like there's like the module object, which is like kind of a black box, but has like the get namespace on it, and that just gives you like an object. It's like we can explore the object.
Okay.
Like I think that's what we'd have to do.
I need to research this more because now I'm just having more questions. All right. So crappy situation. Diagnostics channel using that isn't going to be a solution, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So like my hope like longer term was to like have diagnostics channel for like all the loading lifecycle things. So like eventually we can just not even care if things are on ESM.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not there yet,
Yeah.
which is kind of the problem. Like
Okay.
if we were there already, then this ESM nonsense wouldn't matter. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I'll poop.
Hey. Yep. Yeah. Like we'll probably need to like continue having that for like even if we like add like like loader events with diagnostics channel, like we'll probably still need to like have that in import in the middle, like well, for like version backwards compatibility certainly, but also like not sure yet if I want to add like loader hooks or like loader events with diagnostics channel, but there's been a bit of pushback on well, like I also relatively agree that like diagnostic channels kind of intended to be just like passive observer, like you're not meant to mutate
Yeah.
things, but like we actually need to be able to.
Oh,
like,
you need to be able. Okay.
we need to patch things for like instrumentation purposes.
Okay.
Which like isn't like when I built diagnostic channel, like that was not the intent.
Mm-hmm.
We can make it work that way. It's a little bit of a hack, but it's possible. But like there's like some pushback to that idea of like expose like it like ESM folks don't want us exposing like a mutable copy of the module, basically.
We're not the frickin' browser. Get over it.
Yeah.
Sorry. I have strong opinions about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're trying to. Yeah. They don't. It's like they don't see the necessity of it in terms. Like, how do I put it? They're hand waving it away, saying, "We know people need APMs. We know people need these metrics, but we don't want you touching our stuff." It's like, well, that's not the way it works.
My interpretation of what I've seen is like they're very much viewing basically like parsing an AST transform as like the one true way to manipulate code.
Holy Hannah. What?
Basically everyone I've talked to in ESM is just parse and like mutate the AST. It's like no thanks, but
Yeah. So many reasons no. All right.
I mean,
Well-
having seen another APM try to do the AST parsing thing before. No. But yeah, there has been a history of APMs attempting to do AST parsing. It was not successful.
That's insane that they're actually expecting that.
Okay.
Okay. Well, ping me on any issues if you need somebody to back you up, because we don't have dissimilar issues on our side either.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead and ping me. Doesn't mind me to ruffle feathers or tell them that they're wrong. So, be happy to help.
Yeah, my experience so far has been that, like, well, telling them they're wrong doesn't seem to work too well.
Well, see, having me around will make you seem like the more reasonable person to talk to. So then they'll want to communicate with you, because it really would just be like, do you not see the obvious reality of the situation? People rely on metrics to keep their processes running, and now you're not allowing that.
Okay.
You broke everyone, you clearly are showing that you don't care about the project. Otherwise, you would help people do what they need to do. You instead are more. Anyway, sorry. I will not rant here. I will rant in an issue.
Hey.
Okay. Well, yeah. If you let me know if you have an idea what you could do in core. We have yet to move our stuff to version 20 yet. We usually wait till it's close to LTS, but should we try and do it earlier with this? Okay. All right, then we'll get on moving all of our code over to version 20 to see how it affects us and then communicate with you. And I'll let you know what we do, because like we don't mutate any objects, but we do have to monitor a whole bunch of stuff at the module level, and I'll let you know what we find when we're migrating our code.
Hey. Yep. Yeah, the like moving stuff off thread things like definitely seems like a very substantial change that should have gone through like a bit more communication with the rest of the project, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And outside vendors.
Yeah.
I think that was a very large change. Very. Okay. I feel like if I keep talking about this, I'm just going to actually start ranting, so I think I should stop.
Feels like a conversation that needs to happen with beers in hand.
Yeah, totally. Oh. Was that the main point of this meeting, was to talk about that?
Yeah, it was that breaking the world, and yeah, the async local storage rewrite idea. If there's any other diagnostics things people want to like talk about, future ideas.
I really think we should just chuck in the change to async local storage without testing it right before another major version. See how that goes.
Yeah, that sounds like a great plan.
No, that'd be great, because I mean that should. Yeah, I can see where that would remove the overhead, and that'd be awesome. Because I wonder if we could tie that in. Okay.
Local storage change. I was thinking that V8 API only track the promises, like the microtask queue, right, or something like that. How is it going to track any other async resource that is not a promise?
Yeah, so it flows through promises automatically, but like the way it works internally is just like at some point you get the value, store it off band somewhere. So like in this case, it gets stored on the promise task, and then when the promise goes to resume, then it sets the current thing to that again. So we just need to do the same with async wrap. Is like when the init happens.
If there's no promise involved, how does it work?
No, we manually set it right.
You have it manually.
Yeah. So like any sort of async task that would happen, you grab like what is the current state the V8 is holding.
Okay.
Then you hold that out of band somewhere related to your task, and then when your continuation would happen, then you just restore that as the current value.
It honestly sounds very similar to what async wrap is doing in terms of keeping track of the different IDs and manually setting them. And hey, at least we already know all the code points where it needs to be put, since async wrap already has them all there.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Okay.
So
That should.
let me change when the resolution of the promise, right? That
Hmm?
change with the current implementation. Is on tracking the resolution of the promise or something.
Yeah. Yeah. The way that it. Yeah. Like I said before, I forget which way around it was, but like there's, I believe like. Yeah, this new change would track the resolve, not the creation of the promise. That's what we do right now, or yeah, the creation of the continuation, which like that means that like you can do the like deferrable pattern, where like you can like pull the resolve and reject out and like store that in an object and like hand the promise object somewhere else, and then hand these like resolver thing somewhere else, and that will like link back to wherever it actually resolved from.
Oh, okay.
So that way makes more sense, and then essentially it lets you like track back from there, and then in the case where you want like the other way around, like you can use the like there's the like async resource bind thing was used for like that was like that basically existed for like the like user land queuing or like any sort of like this continuation is like
5:30. Okay.
yeah, like the continuation like is running in a different place than like where like the actual like thing that's tried to queue it is, and like it's a similar sort of thing here.
Okay.
That like yeah, like the actual like continuation is attached like over here, and the trigger is happening over here. So it's the same sort of thing. We can just like use that to bind the two together if we need to.
Okay.
Yeah, that was my understanding from what James was saying about it anyway.
Cool. Well, if it works that well, I feel like we could replace the async wrap mechanic completely.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll have to see once we start using it.
Yeah, we'll still need like async hooks around for like other like things other than context management. So
Yep.
like, the rest of async wrap will need to continue to exist for that. But
Yeah, that's true.
I can probably like simplify a bunch of things though, and like I think like part of the problem with async hooks, like that being the core underneath like async local storage, and like async local storage kind of being like, well, like it's already considered stable, and like it's a thing that like a lot of stuff depends on, has kind of made it difficult to like make any changes to async hooks.
Oh, okay.
It's like if there's any like refactor we want to do to it for like performance reasons or things like that, if like any of the events are like out of order at all, or like any timing changes whatsoever, just everything explodes.
Oh, that's a problem, because when I wrote async hooks, the whole point was that you wouldn't be dependent on that. So
Yeah.
if yes, that makes perfect sense, because async hooks, no API was ever meant to be dependent on ordering and timing with
Yeah.
async hooks. So
Unfortunately, a lot were, including how like async local storage was
okay,
implemented.
well, that'd be great if they can migrate it off to something faster and more stable.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Well, no, the async local storage itself was not implemented. That was the all the other stuff that like that was a continuation of. It's like
Okay.
continuation local storage, I think it's called, and like all that whole family of things, like the things trying to do like the providing the context management API on top of that.
Yeah.
Like it had the like it always did the like cleanup life cycle as the like it deletes this when the destroy happens, which like there's a bunch of cases where like it was ambiguous, like when the destroy should happen, like promises like happens someday maybe if the promise is ever garbage collected potentially, which is not a great way to do things. And yeah, there's like certain cases where like Venables, it would like produce a init and then another init and then the before and after.
Oh, really?
It'd actually do like two inits,
Oh,
because like
interesting.
there's an init from like the Venable being converted to a promise and then the actual use of that promise.
That's freaking hilarious. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that happened.
Yeah, there was I'm trying to remember what the case was. There's like a case where like it like normal case was like with the promise chaining, you'd get like if you do like a like then and then like inside of that like promise resolve or something like that, like goes down to the next thing in the chain, it would do like the before and after for that then, and then like the resolve would be between there. But there was like certain cases where the resolve would actually happen after the after.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was like not promise at all, but like promise race and like the other
Oh,
different variations
yeah.
would like it would actually like create the promise that all this stuff is being like, I don't know, whatever, handled in the background just
V8 just did
after
its
it's
own
done
thing,
doing
yeah.
the thing. It was weird.
Okay. Interesting. Well, cool. I'm looking for it. And does that API exist currently in V8?
Yep. Yeah. The embedder continuation context data or something. I think. Yeah, it exists in V8. It's actually been there for a while now.
Oh, okay.
Like maybe a year and a half, 2 years.
There's some module in one of the writers of this stuff.
Yeah. There's a prototype module.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Let's just figure something out before 20 goes LTS. Otherwise, we're all screwed.
Yeah. Everything's on fire forever.
Yeah, right. Really, when does 20 go LTS? 3 months? October? Yeah, you're right, October.
Usually it's October.
Yep. Okay, so May.
We should start
Yeah, we should.
because we are late.
Yep, we are. All right. I'll be in contact with you about that to tell you what we learn when we migrate our code.
Okay.
Oh,
Fingers crossed it's not like even more on fire than I think it is.
yeah, I'll let you know. It's an even bigger change since libv has changed the way they read files from the file system on Linux. And every other, like, they just use poll on every kernel, on every platform, except recently now on Linux, they now use uring, which is completely different.
Yeah.
So
It's going to be
it's nice because it's faster, but at the same time, it's more abstract, so it's harder to see into what's happening.
Yep.
well, it runs in the same thread. It's like doesn't matter. You get the compilation.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
You get the compilation.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, yeah, it's a lot faster, yeah.
That's the thing. From our point of view, it's going to be
Yep.
to get the compilation.
Yep.
earlier.
Yeah, so good news there. On Linux, it can read small files 8 times faster. So, but
Maybe it'll just be so fast that we don't need to care about ESM load time anymore.
yeah, right. Well,
That or because it's so fast, people will just add like 100,000 more dependencies.
that will be what happens. Yeah. Well, and yeah, it keeps us employed.
So, is someone going to add the like everything module back to npm?
Oh yeah, I forgot that was a thing, wasn't it?
Pretty sure it got banned.
And that's understandable. I mean, the size of that package JSON. Anyway.
I think it's still on GitHub.
Is it really? I kind of want to install it. No.
Maybe you can use it as a GitHub dependency and still take down npm anyway.
Oh, that'd be great.